Okay. Wow. The big computer laptop doesn't want to cooperate and let me be on YouTube. So, I'm not going to worry about it. My first video, I'm going to say that I tried to do this before things get hectic. I don't know if I'll be able to carry on doing it. We'll see if things get hectic or if I maintain support. Obviously, the world's gone crazy. When I first noticed exactly, or first started noticing exactly how crazy it was, I thought, oh my god, they're going to be making people kill themselves. Because I experienced a lot of stuff as a kid. I experienced a lot of stuff as a kid. That's all I can really say about it. I'm not taking down any of the videos that I made. And obviously, there's plenty of, although I can't know it, I can't prove it, appearances might suggest that it could be obvious in some situations that there is a variety of illicit memes and just mean BS floating around cyberspace where they clip this or clip that or put stuff up unedited. And my stuff, even edited, is pretty crazy because honestly, life has been really hard. And I know it's really hard for a lot of people, but I mean, frankly, my life is so weird that I really can't say a lot of stuff about a lot of it because apparently, I mean, if this even gets out, I'm kind of like, a lot of stuff is classified in the world. I am allowed to read from the DBT novel or manual, the DBT skills training manual, at least the part of it that I got given. I'm allowed to read stuff for educational purposes, and I believe that I'm going to be trying to read this stuff, uh, just putting forward my best effort to prevent the insane meanness and the insane malice. It's like malice at a pathological level. And in DBT, we do learn that emotions are a biological mechanism designed to cause people to do things. And so emotions generate action, and action is, of course, the karma that we generate in each moment, in each action. And so by regulating your emotions, you can sort of more regulate your karma, which I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to put out there or not, because I did get booted or run out of the DBT group by the gang. Seemed like it, appearances could suggest that um, appearances could suggest that I'm going to have to learn how to edit. But in the meantime, there was a hostile atmosphere. And if people want to take me to court on that, I'll go to court on that, because definitely the video exists and reports exist that, or should exist, where I tried to report the experience, but really I would have had to report in the same way as I'm trying to get the abusive community to admit that they abused me, but people just go to court and legal stuff matters, proof matters. You have to be able to prove it, and so if you've got people generating false proof and false narratives by creating triggers, I know that they're doing like MLK Ultra or whatever revelations on some of the more far out websites, probably on the right. Well, right and left. But again, then we're getting into probably classified weird stuff, and I don't want to go there. This is like non-classified information. I've been given permission to read it out loud. Reading stuff for public benefit or education is supposed to not go against the copyright stuff. I'm just going to say that the person that owns the copyright and owns the DBT skills training courses and invented them and everything. It has nothing to do with my political viewpoints or anything. They've never met me. They have no idea who I am. I kind of admire them because they've had a rough life. The person's name is Marcia M. Linehan, and she's actually over on the west side of my same state. My understanding is that she actually invented this skills training course as a response to her own experience with whatever circumstances caused her to spend some time in sort of desperate mental and emotional circumstances that I know that she came out about, so obviously otherwise I wouldn't know anything about it because I don't know her because I've never met her. So she's right across the state from me, and like I said, she's not connected to me. I'm not connected to her in any way, but I do admire her, and I don't know if she'll let me continue reading her material or not, but I'm going to go ahead and begin by reading her material. And I'm also going to begin by saying, point blank, that I am a Trump supporter also. In addition to admiring Marsha Linehan, I sort of can admire people on the right, I admire people on the left, I admire people on the center, I admire people out there on the edge, above me, below me, and I'm the same way about despising people. And sometimes I despise certain aspects of people that I admire the same way that I despise certain aspects of me, admire certain aspects of me. And so, yep, I admire Marsha Linehan, and she lives on the west side of my state where probably a lot of liberal people, and so she's probably liberal. And I admire President Trump and Vice President Pence. Actually, Pence is the first person that drew me into the Trump camp, frankly, because of the way that he treats his wife with respect and doesn't engage in the swampy behavior that I know for a fact goes on where women, because I was raised in that sort of environment, and that's why I went to counseling. That was why I went and encountered the DBT skills, was because I don't trust other women, and I'm just going to say it still. So that was why. So I'm going to say that I admire those guys, and frankly, the slippery back and forth, too much skills, I think, and I went into this with my counselor that I learned the DBT skills training from, and we kind of argued back and forth because definitely too much skills, skillful speaking, I think, puts a cloud on the truth. And I think it makes it an available, it just creates victimhood. It's, you become too skillful and worried about being skillful and worried about how you're presenting your case more than about the case itself. And that goes same with the law side where you're trying to prove stuff. Too much proving, same. And it does protect people like me that are just mental, but it also impedes. And so I think a balance of free speech and skilled speech is what people going forward should be looking for. Of course, no one's going to look at my videos. I'm doing this for my own personal mental health and for the energy that it puts out there. But I'm going to say that having help from the sheriff's department and having a sheriff that I can talk to and work with in a legal sense and tell the things that happened to me to a sheriff, and having a president and a vice president that really think it's important to follow the law and have a good legal system versus just slipping and sliding in different directions, it has been equally valuable to me as all the years that I've spent in counseling, as far as being able to regain the mental health that I had ripped from me as a child and I was never able to access. And in fact, even as recently as last night, there was what I would take to be a personal personal sort of meme under the no victim hashtag, and I've been harassed by this same. It was by the police department, and when I first started being harassed by the suicide clubs, they put up quite a bit of information by this one girl that may or may not be true, where she kind of held up the signage and read that, you know, her story about how she got talked into flashing her titties and getting it on camera, and then, you know, she moved and moved and moved. And she never says anything. She just holds it up, and it's really, really sad. And then the end thing is that she kills herself. And I was like, oh, you're trying to get me to kill myself for one thing. And for another thing, the story was obvious that there had to be a legal component to the people that were stalking her from city to city and then re-exposing her. She would go somewhere and make friends, and then they would follow her, these online stalkers, and put up all her bad stuff, these titty pictures or whatever, and then crash hers. And I'm like, I know what that's like. For one thing, that's the isolation people, the people that create problems like the Virginia Tech shooter, or frankly, my high school experience where I got kicked out of high school. So here we're veering into probably information that's classified, how they use the torture, but I don't really care because that's part of this. And I know that right next door in Montana, you guys have a really high suicide rate. And so I'm talking to you. And I know that from my experience when I went to the groups was that there appears to be a definite organized crime syndicate that is trying to sit on the mental health groups and prevent people from accessing this particular set of skills training, because specifically it gives that mindfulness ability to avoid some of the social torture that's going on. And trust me, I've gone on YouTube and I've examined by watching a lot of the social torture that is produced on YouTube. And so then I went on, and Pullman Police Department had put up a meme of a cow chewing its cud. And so either it was because they accessed my personal texting, possibly, or because they access my personal camera, which possibly. I've definitely had some experiences where that appears to be like it could be possibly a case that people are using Periscope and other forms of the screen camera to just illicitly access our cameras and our microphones. I'm pretty sure that's becoming regular, common public knowledge. And so, yeah, same police department that harassed and chased me out of school as a child seems to have members. So then what I did is I got up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get that camel meme and I'm gonna put it up and I'm gonna be like, And so I got it and I went and looked and it was gone. And then I went to the hashtag no victim, spelled with a capital N and a capital V and without capitals, and it wasn't viewable in either of those hashtags either. And so I was just like, oh, so it was. And so like the Patriot websites had been putting up, oh, we're doing tribunals right now, or military tribunals. And I know there's a whole underground network of people that have their own judges and do their own executions and all this stuff. I'm totally aware of this scene at this point. And so the no victim hashtag to me looked like it was coming from the white supremacist network, saying that they had checked out my story and that the pedigree people met. You know, it doesn't matter what you say, and you can videotape it. If it is the pedigree people screaming and yelling at you, they're allowed to. I think we all had that experience. And it doesn't matter if they do the same thing or do worse things or who does what, because that's what prejudice law is, and that's what color of law violation is, and that's what two-tier system of justice is that you just get treated differently. And not only that, but even when I had money to access lawyers, I was completely unable to hire a lawyer because syndicate. So what I can do is I can read until possibly someone comes and does copyright violation on me. But as far as I know, we're allowed to do stuff for educational purposes. I'm not doing this for any monetary reward. I'm not connected to the people that run any of the programs, other than I did have permission to take this manual around and try and get people to go to the groups. But with the way that my experience in the groups and the way that I was driven from the groups, especially the last time where I was completely unsafe and my dog was completely unsafe, and I left the group in the middle and I said, I'm leaving. I am done talking to you. I'm done trying to work with you, and I am leaving right now because I feel very unsafe. Then I called the ombudsman, but then the ombudsman had the same last name as the person that I said that to, and I was just like, no, it's some kind of family thing, and they're just gonna laugh at me trying to turn it in. So, yeah. So I don't really feel comfortable saying, ooh, go to your mental health either, because there's definitely, it felt like to me there was a group of Suicide Club people that hovered around the mental health too. So the same way that when you go online and you go to these self-help groups and there's just predators hovering around the group. So probably predators will hover around my videos. Certainly predators have followed along behind me, creating havoc everywhere I go. And there's so much havoc and chaos in my life all the time that I really thought that was normal, because it's just this constant cloud of havoc and chaos. And that is why being isolated and just working with the sheriff and look at that peace sign from it, working with the sheriff and telling him everything and just being like, you deal with it, you deal with it, you deal with it, there is nothing I can do. And I don't give a shit about friends, I don't give a shit about family, all I give a shit about is the law. And if I have to, and yeah, obviously got a little bit of Tourette's from all this trauma, so I don't give a shit about being PG, so sorry about that. These are like the un-PG mental health training stuff, but you can just trust that I'm telling the truth as best as I can. Keeping people's secrets at the same time as best as I can, but you just gotta be strong. And bees are a way to be strong, but don't get into being too skillful, because then you just get dirty because you start manipulating people, because these are pretty strong skills. Could use them to manipulate people, and that's what the gangs are doing, is they're using them to manipulate people. And frankly, before I even went in there, I was like, oh, there's a lot of people with psychological degrees that are like, they just have them to hurt people, because I'm just like a nut job. Oh, I go on, I run into the misogyny people. Oh, there's a lot of men out there that they just don't like women. Run into racism. Oh, there's a lot of like people that don't like this kind of person or that kind of person, because I mean racism really does exist across the spectrum, and it's just like there's all these isms and ists, and I'm just like, oh, look what I found, like reinventing the wheel every minute of the day. So I'm going to reinvent the wheel and read DBT skills. Again, this is my second attempt at trying this, but I'm a little bit less triggered right now. When I first tried it, I was so triggered by that Stormy Daniels, Anderson Cooper interview, where I really felt like President Trump was, like verbally sexually assaulted. But I mean, maybe she's mental too, so I don't know. But Anderson Cooper really has no excuse for drawing her out like that, because he's an interviewer. He's a professional. He's like, he's supposed to be a leader. Anderson Cooper, you're supposed to be a leader of good things. Leaders are supposed to be doing good things. And now I'm going to do myself a little mental health therapy via video, with my clothes on in my living room while I still have it. Thank you. Thank you, POTUS. Thank you, Marsha Linehan. Thank you, sort of overrun mental health place that I'm not sure about all your ethics, but thank you for the skills training and the workbook and the permission to